I think I know you. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know you. You'll talk to a stranger. You'll ask someone parked on the side of a lonely road if they need help. You'll be there to help them. When you see a little kid looking through the car window at you and your motorcycle, you'll give them a wave. And you'll love to see that little kid smile when they wave back and they'll tell mom and dad all about you. In today's episode, we'll talk about why being kind to strangers is so important to you and me and the entire motorcycling community. We'll describe forms of kindness, different ways of showing that motorcycle riders are really good people, because we are. And then we'll talk about why your actions as a rider really impacts all of us. It's a lot to unpack, a lot to think about. So let's do it. Thank you for joining me today. Recorded in beautiful Loveland, Colorado. Welcome to Peace, Love, Moto, the podcast for motorcyclists seeking that peaceful, easy feeling as we cruise through this life together. Are you ready? Let's go. Well, hello, friends. I'm just now coming back from a little break from the podcast. I hope that's okay, and I'm sure you understand that we all need a break every once in a while, and in my case, I just needed some more road time, some more time out on the bike. In this case, I spent several days riding with my brother-in-law who came out from Texas to join me. We were exploring southern Wyoming and most of Colorado. We were on the road for about 5 days. He was on his Triumph, and I was on my BMW. Now, I don't normally talk about specifics about motorcycles and brands on this podcast, but I just got to tell you, I have a relatively new BMW GS Adventure, and it is amazing. It's the R1250. Now, I have a Triumph in the garage as well and love it dearly, but I've just got to say, for long road trips, the GS is completely amazing. So when you're on your bike and you're coming into a coffee shop wearing your motorcycle gear, you'll show some extra kindness to the barista with a tip that's over the top. I know you. You'll do that. You'll make eye contact with those who give you an extra glance because of your unique appearance and your motorcycle gear. Yep, I know you. So let's talk a little bit more about this whole deal of kindness. What's the difference between a stranger and a friend? Well, sometimes it's just a hello. I experienced this firsthand on this road trip with my brother-in-law, Jim. We talked to a lot of people out there on the road. We talked to people at gas stations, at coffee shops, and at lunch counters. And there were several places along the road where we stopped just to take in the view, and total strangers would come up and just talk to us. Oftentimes it's other motorcycle riders, but also there would be those who just walk up just to look at the bike and talk about what we've been doing, talk about our day, what kind of bike it is, where we plan to go, where we've been. It's the motorcycle that just kind of brings us together, and that's one of the many beauties of the sport, right? You see, a motorcycle rider is unique. We are. That makes us a little bit special, I suppose. Unique people are interesting to talk to. Now, I wasn't wearing my motorcycle gear when I met a man named Fred, but when he found out that I was a motorcycle rider, that really triggered a whole new level of conversation. And this began our journey from being strangers to friends. Jim, my brother-in-law, and I stayed the night in Durango, Colorado. It was at dinner that evening that I ended up sitting right next to a man in his 70s. A very Western-looking man. Very much a mountain man, I could tell. That was Fred. Fred was indeed unique, and I was really interested in getting to know him. Fred went on to describe himself as a local to Durango. He grew up there, he said. Again, Fred was probably in his 70s, so he had been around town for quite a long time. Fred went on to describe how he knew personally the fellow playing the piano. He said that young man, his name was Adam, and he knew Adam since he was a little kid. It was unexpected that, during our conversation, Fred excused himself from the table and then returned in about 5 minutes. He handed me an envelope, and in it, he had about 10 pictures of himself as a young man. Among those pictures was a photo of himself in the 1970s, sitting on a classic Harley-Davidson chopper that he had pieced together himself. He went on to describe how that motorcycle and the pretty girl also in the picture, they used to ride around together all over Durango and pretty much all over the western region of Colorado. You see, Fred had an understanding of the value of talking with strangers. He knew it was a two-way beneficial agreement, I guess. We learn from each other. We laugh. We share a little bit about ourselves with another person. You see, also, that conversation was easy because he and I had a common passion for motorcycles. Now, those of us who ride instantly have something to talk about. We know that it can be cold and rainy outside, and we feel it. We feel that chill on the motorcycle when we ride. We have that common understanding. When it's hot outside and sometimes the temperatures soar, by the fact that we're sitting on a really hot engine, we've got that in common too. We know that riding motorcycles has its risks, and we don't take risks lightly. We wear protective gear to reduce those risks. And we know that riding also comes with tremendous rewards. Two motorcycle riders will seldom remain strangers for very long. Motorcycle riders also communicate with strangers in a nonverbal way every time we ride. We give a positive impression about motorcycling when we give a little wave to another driver or give them some extra space so that they can pull in front of us if they need to, maybe to enter into a lane. We relay courtesy by not following too closely. We certainly win some points when we wave at a little kid in the window like I was describing. I think we relay a different message, though, when we're just too loud or obnoxious. As I mentioned in an earlier podcast, when I work as a tour guide in Rocky Mountain National Park, sometimes motorcycles are just too loud for that atmosphere. I've been with groups of tourists who are experiencing a really special time with their families on vacation, enjoying the silence of the forest and some up-close views of wildlife, only for it to be spoiled by loud motorcycles, even way off in the distance. I've seen people startled and angered by a rider who's blasting their stereo system, from their bike, assuming that everyone wants to hear Led Zeppelin. Now, I love Led Zeppelin as much as everyone else, but that's not an excuse for lack of courtesy. You see, I'm convinced that one motorcycle rider's kindness and courtesy has an impact on all of us. Just yesterday evening, I was riding on a forest road when I came upon a young couple standing outside their car on a very remote road. As I approached and I gave them a thumbs up, which we all know is kind of the signal for asking if you're okay, and the young man just shook his head, so I stopped and to see what was going on. He described this noise that was coming from one of his wheels. I asked him to drive back and forth just a little bit there in front of me and determined that the sound was probably just a little stone that had gotten caught between the brake pad and the rotor. So I told him it was probably okay and he'd be fine to drive on home. Most of all, that young man and the young lady he was with were really happy, really grateful that I stopped, just to say hello. So what does a little bit of kindness do for us on motorcycles? Well, I'm pretty sure that if a car driver has an appreciation that motorcycle riders are people too, and nice people at that, then maybe they'll show us a little more care by not following us too closely, or by giving us a second look when they're getting ready to turn left in front of us. Either way, I'm convinced that kindness matters. So, really, that's what this podcast is all about. We sometimes find peace of mind from the seat of a motorcycle, but we also show our love for humanity through small acts of kindness. It may be so simple as just saying hello and giving a stranger a smile. Maybe it's in the form of a really good tip that you share with the barista at a coffee shop, or a wave, or a stop to make sure that the other guy's okay when they're on the side of the road. That's kindness, and that really matters. And for that, we can ride with a lot of pride. Thank you so much for listening today. Until we meet again, I wish you peace. I wish you love.